Hey guys, how's it going? Today I want to talk about a few more topics, and these are kind of controversial topics. So I know I'm going to get some hate for this video, and some people are going to be offended, but you know what? It's freedom of speech. So I'm just going to talk about my opinion, and I do have some reasons why I'm saying the things I do. So I'm going to talk about this in my video. First controversial topics I want to talk about is the whitewashing of Asians in Hollywood. So Asian roles in Hollywood have never been very good. Like since even the time of Bruce Lee, you know, way back 40 years ago when Bruce Lee was trying to audition for these roles, you know, Hollywood was whitewashing these roles. Way back, if you look at the 1961 film Breakfast at Tiffany's, one of the roles of a Japanese person was whitewashed, so a white person was playing that role. And today it seems that it's the same. It's the same as 40-50 years ago. Nothing has changed since Bruce Lee died, and we are in the same position. Because recently the Ghost in the Shell, one of the most renowned Japanese animes, has been adapted into a movie, and to not my surprise, Hollywood decided to cast a white actor. And it's not really the first time Hollywood has done this. They've done it countless times. They've done it from Dragon Ball Evolution to Avatar: The Last Airbender to the movie 21, which originally had an Asian person in it, to Aloha with Emma Stone playing an Asian, and now with Scarlett Johansson playing the character in a Japanese adapted film. And now I realize that people, when I say this on Facebook or on social media, and then people make excuses for why this might be. They say, oh, Scarlett Johansson is casted in this role because she's a bigger box office person, and they want this movie to sell, so they had to put someone who's really famous in this role. I get that, but the thing is, box office isn't really tied to a big person's name. And like Adam Sandler, for example, Adam Sandler makes shitty movies, and he's a big name. And Daisy Ridley is a first, I think Star Wars Force Awakens was her first like major picture debut, and she was an unknown. And so was the other Star Wars characters back in the original, like Mark Hamill, way back in the original, and they weren't well known. And you know, Star Wars Force Awakens is one of the biggest movies ever. So I don't think big names is tied to box office. At least like that's my thought. I don't think so. And I think that's a pretty weak excuse. Like, if you don't cast Asians in a bigger role, how can they ever become big? You know, and this kind of a catch-22. To become big, you need to have a chance to become a big star. You know, if they're never given that chance, then they'll never become big, and they'll never be casted, and it's a vicious cycle. So that's the problem here. Hollywood seems to be getting a lot of criticism these days because people are getting very progressive. For not casting more women and black people, and why is Asian any different, right? It seems that for these kind of roles, people kind of make excuses for not casting Asians, whereas for other minorities like women or black people, then they don't make as many excuses. For example, Nick Fury in the Avengers is played by a black character, and he was originally a white character in the comics, right? Just to give you one of the many examples. No one really had a problem with that, right? So what if I said Nick Fury is casted as played by an Asian person, like an Asian actor like John Cho, for example? Would people have a problem with that? I would think so, because for some reason, people in the U.S., people in America have this conception that Asian Americans are foreigners. They have this conception that they're not really American, and for black people, it's not the case. Like, people think black people is American. But not for Asians. They think that, oh, Asians are always foreigners. And you know, all these roles that are played by Asian people in the movies, like the geeks, the nerds, and then Ken Jeong, you know, in The Hangover, playing this weird Chinese person or this weird Asian person, you know, it doesn't really help. You know, it just enhances that bad misconception. So I have this popular comment I found on Facebook. It was a comment on John Cho's article. John Cho, he's a pretty cool guy. He's one of my favorite Asian American actors, but he has one of the articles showing why Asians are perceived as they can't be romantic leads, they can't be action leads, they can't be leads basically in a big blockbuster movie. Really, so like Hollywood hasn't really given Asian people the chance to be a big like lead in a Hollywood movie. And yeah, he basically put some pictures of himself, photoshopped himself in a bunch of roles, and then uh, I think yeah that he has a really good point. Like if you Photoshop him in the roles, then why can't Asian people be in those roles? Like if you look at Korean dramas, which are extremely popular, you have a lot of romantic leads played by Asian people, by Korean guys, right? And this comment got over 50 upvotes when I saw it. It says, and this is a pretty racist comment. It says, complaining about the lack of Asian lead characters in North American films is like going to India, China, or Korea and complaining that they should be starring white people in their films. Yeah, this comment is really, yeah, it's kind of, it doesn't make sense to me. Like, U.S., the American population of 310 million people, 5% of it is Asian. That's a little bit more than 15 million people, and that's about what, like half the population of Canada, right? That's quite a bit. Like, yeah, that's quite a bit of people. So if you go to India or Korea or China, how many white people are there? I don't think there's like 50 million white people in those countries, right? There's some expats, sure, but it's not going to be like 50 million of them. Whereas in America is a multicultural, multiracial country, and it's not the same. You can't say that, oh, Bollywood doesn't have white people in it, or Korean dramas doesn't have white people in it, because those countries don't have that many white people. Whereas in America, in Hollywood, it's watched by everyone over the world, and yeah, I think they should have some Asian people because there are a lot of Asians in America. So, yeah, um, yeah, they just think that we Asians are perpetual foreigners, even if we are like second and third generation Asian Americans, speak perfect English. Yeah, they still think we're foreigners, which is dumb. And I want to talk about another thing that happened is that Hollywood is getting more and more diverse, so they're trying to. This is some trend that I don't really like about what happened recently in the industry. The entertainment industry is trying to get more diverse by forcing diversity on everything. Like they're trying to like say, oh, Star Wars Force Awakens should have had a gay character, and this should have had a transgender character, this should have had a black character. I know I just talked about Asians not getting as many roles in Hollywood, but those are for actually Asian roles. Like Ghost in the Shell is a Asian, that's the originally Asian thing. Dragon Ball Z was originally come from Japan. And if they adapt those, then they should probably put an Asian person. But the thing is, something that didn't originally have a gay person or transgender or whatever, like, I think it's getting too forced if you say, oh, we're writing this rule specifically because we want to appeal to gay people, we want to appeal to transgender or lesbian people. Unless it contributes somewhat to the plot of the movie, then like forcing this kind of diversity is wrong. Like it's racist. It's discrimination basically. That's the same thing as like saying, oh, we have to get one black person, one, like basically have this checklist of different diversity, this diversity checklist that they have to check off, and that's basically discrimination. The same thing that the tech industry has been criticized for having too many whites and too many Asians and too many males, but the thing is that if there are more women doing those kind of fields, more like black people, Mexican people doing like programming or being in the tech industry, then they wouldn't have this problem. But forcing that kind of diversity and saying that, oh, we'll hire you just because you're a woman, we'll hire you just because you're a Mexican and you're a programmer, that is racial discrimination. So I don't think that's appropriate. So that's my comment about the recent trend of like forcing diversity. I don't think it's right. We shouldn't have a woman in a movie just because she's a woman. We shouldn't have like a black person or a Mexican person or even an Asian person in movies just because we need that for diversity. It has to be part of the role, part of what the original script was writing for. There has to be a good reason for it. Okay, so kind of related to discrimination, another topic I really want to talk about is feminism, and this is a topic I get pretty riled up about this. And then people might